new
winter
culture.
Hi guys, welcome to a new winter, Cults and Culture, and today we're going to be talking about It, Chapter 1, the 2017 film. And here with me is Dan. Hi Dan.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Pretty terrible actually, but I'll rally and I'm so bloody enthusiastic and excited about talking about It. So
It. Well,
It.
yes. Information Technology, the film.
When you're a kid, you think the universe revolves around you. You think that you'll always be protected and cared for. Then, one day, you realize that's not true. Because when you're alone as a kid, the monsters see you as weaker. You don't even know they're getting closer. Till it's too late.
Here, take it.
So, what do you remember from you watched the TV film, I take it, the 1990, I believe it was, movie with Tim Curry.
I did.
I haven't seen that lately. What were your thoughts on that?
I rewatched it, recently, fairly recently for me, about 5 years ago. And I thought it was really good. I thought it held up really well. It's got a bit of that kind of like 90s look to it in the production, which is a bit naff. I mean, you can kind of see it's been made for TV.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's a good cast.
Adds to its charm a little bit, I think.
Yeah, it's fair to say. Obviously, the highlight is Tim Curry.
Yeah. He was very supportive of the new Pennywise actor. I forgot his name already. Where's his name?
Bill Skarsgård.
Bill Skarsgård. The Swedish guy. So coming up to this film, did you watch the trailers? What did you think? Were you excited for this when you heard it was being made?
I was sceptical, and because I often approach any kind of remake with skepticism. But the trailers looked good, and I watched it because I downloaded it for free.
Can't say that. You never know who's listening.
It was better than I didn't actually go in with any hopes whatsoever. I thought it was going to be quite bad, really.
Yeah. Well, I kind of remember when I heard that they were going to do a new It, I thought, well, yeah, it's about time, really, isn't it? Like, it's been a while since they've approached that. And when I saw the trailer, I remember thinking, oh, fuck, this is actually going to be really good. It's really interesting. And I think Pennywise, the look of the clown himself, is much more akin to the book, I believe, and how he's described in there. And he looks like a kind of... like a painting, almost like a Renaissance era kind of costume. And I just thought, man, Pennywise looks good. He looks scary. Like that's stuff that people are going to copy like they did Joker with Heath Ledger back in the day. I can imagine a lot of people doing some cosplay of that. But it looked genuinely like there was some really terrifying sights in it.
Yeah, obviously the design and appearance of the clown was going to kind of predicate the film's success, I think. But they got that right. And definitely in the trailers, I think that was part of the appeal. And kind of what then made me think, oh, maybe this won't be so bad. They haven't completely bodged Pennywise.
Yeah, exactly. And that's quite key to this. Even though I think I heard, because I read the book, but I haven't read it since I was a little kid. And I believe that Pennywise the clown himself isn't actually in the book that much. As opposed to he's there like all the time. I feel like anyway in this film, but maybe not. So this was quite a huge success. It was I believe the highest grossing R-rated horror film of all time, and I think it still is. I don't know if it's Chapter 2 broke that, but it was a massive success. And Yeah. Did you expect it to kind of be that successful?
Absolutely not. I'm surprised to hear that, to be honest.
Yeah, it was crazy how well it did. So for people that don't know, it is a Stephen King book that was released, in the 80s, I think. And it's basically about a bunch of kids who are up against this clown monster alien thing that feeds off fear, and it's going around killing all these kids. And so the new film is by the director's Andy Muschietti. I think I might have got that right. If you don't know, he's done films such as Mama, and he was the kind of protege a little bit of Del Toro, I think, who produced Mama. And you can kind of see the similarities. Mama was... Have you seen Mama, Dan?
Isn't that like... that's that ABBA film, right?
Yeah, have you seen it? It's a bit scary in another way. Guillermo del Toro produced it. He's got his fingerprints all over it. You can see it on the screen. Mel Streep singing. That's great.
Is that the Australian film?
I don't think it's Australian. I think it was... No. I think he's Spanish or Mexican. That's going to be racist.
Spanish, I think.
Spanish. And yeah, it's basically about this dead mum who their kids have like been brought up in the woods by the ghost mother, something weird like that, and they get found and taken on board by this family. And it's got what's her name, who was in It Chapter 2 in the end, who plays grown up Beverly. I can't remember her name now, it's terrible. But yeah, so he did that before, which was okay. Wasn't that Jessica Chastain, that's her name. Wasn't I don't think it was that good, to be honest. I don't think it was that great. So when I heard he was doing It, I was like, well, it could be all right. And you could see the short that he did of Mama, which he made like 5 years previous, which got him on Del Toro's thing. And it's only like 2 minutes, but that is better than the 90-minute feature film that came after it. So yeah, he was brought on. I think it was originally going to be Cary Fukunaga, I think is how you say it, who I always think of as True Detective, and he worked on it for like 5 years or something, and then Andy Muschietti came on board, and that's the film that we see it today. So I thought we can go through it kind of step by step, and kind of have a reminisce on what happened and our thoughts as it went along. So yeah, as everyone probably knows, and what's famous in the trailers and from the first film, is that it opens out on poor little Georgie, who and the first shot here is that there's a little smile on the window that disappears, and that's a kind of theme throughout the whole film. I feel like is this loss of innocence. This kind of, it's all a coming of age thing, as these like kid dramas often are. And that kind of first shot with the the smile on the window and all this stuff, and then that going a little bit later, is a metaphor, a symbol for the entire film. So I just like to throw that in there. Right from the off, they're introducing that.
A film rich in metaphor, visual metaphor.
Yes.
You'll see plenty more of them over the 2.5 hours running time of this movie.
Yeah, it is quite long. So there's like this creepy piano stuff playing, music playing, and I thought it was quite funny because then like Georgie goes to the cellar and he's like all freaked out. It's like that Home Alone thing. You keep expecting like the grill or whatever in Home Alone to start opening up, and Macaulay Culkin to run back upstairs. But yeah, he gets a little bit freaked out and goes back upstairs, and his mum is sitting there playing the like creepy piano music, which I remember thinking like, what's she doing? Like, why is she playing this like weirdly creepy thing? And then again, it kind of fits into the whole thing of the adults in this entire film are creepy.
Yeah,
they are the threat. They're fucking weird. And so even from the off, when it's like, he's walking around and the mum's playing this really scary, weird music. Do you think, what the hell is she doing? That feeds into the thing of like adults are the other in this entire film, which I thought was pretty cool, actually, which really kind of gave it this sense of unease because, it's all about child endangerment a little bit, really. And when you've got the adults being weird who are supposed to be normal, then it's kind of adding to this constant threat throughout the film almost. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, it's a popular device to use in kind of young adult fiction, isn't it? Or any of this kind of like movie telling of coming of age. You have either sort of like absent adult figures, which forces the kids to kind of step up, or you'll have adult figures that are either, like you say, kind of disturbing, or they're not able to act.
Yeah.
And that's what we get here, because we do see some adults who, later on we'll see his father, and he's just sort of disappointing. He's not bad, and he's there, but doesn't do anything.
Yeah, he's a little bit. He gets a bit angry with Bill, I think his name is, and he's generally, he's quite annoyed. He's not like a loving father who is okay with his son. And none of them are really. So yeah, Georgie, who's wearing this like yellow jacket, and again the yellow's all like bright and sunny, but like a colour wise, I mean, obviously like bright sunshine. And yeah, he watches his boat go down the stream. And you know what I found funny was when he runs into the barrier.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, it's really weird they've put that in. Like, is it because, again, it's like this sense of like joy and like, oh, I'm having such a great time. And then donk, like reality almost smacking him in the face. And again, like another breaking down of like the childish joy that one gets in life. It's not real.
I thought it was just, because I thought this whole first scene was building really nicely. With like going down into the basement and you're tense, there's no payoff. So when he comes back up, you're already heightened anxiety, and now he's out on the street, you're at heightened anxiety. And that's like a little kind of like, you're expecting something awful to happen. And it's like, that's what's happened. That's the only bad thing that's going to happen. I can just relax again a bit now.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And then it makes the next bit kind of even worse because you've now settled a little bit.
Yeah. No, that's a good point actually. But yeah, this is where we first see Pennywise, who's in the sewer. And if you notice, apparently like his eyes, they were going to like CG his eyes to like separate a little bit, but apparently Bill Skarsgård can do it naturally.
No.
Yeah, apparently, which is really weird.
I just assumed that was CGI because one of them goes really like kind of a bit boss.
Yeah, I mean, it might have. I might have touched it up a little bit, and done it more in post. But apparently, he can do that. He can.
That looked horrible.
Do that. Yeah, it did look really fucking horrible. And what's great is that if you look at it, it's what makes it really unsettling. And what subconsciously is that his like. So if we're looking at him, the left eye is looking at Georgie, obviously within the scene. The right eye is looking at us. So what makes it even more unsettling is that it actually looks like he's looking at us whilst this whole scene is playing out, which is really clever tricks. Not only is it unsettling because his eyes are going two different ways, but it looks like he's watching us as we're watching the film.
It's a really nice touch. Yeah. Everything about this first scene introduction of the Pennywise character is spot on, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's
they
really
cool. Nail it. He really nails it, and this kind of like puts to bed any doubt that you might have about Tim Curry. Big shoes to fill, but I thought he was fantastic.
Yeah, straight from the off, and the fact that it's like he's all like being quite jolly, and all like his voice is all like silly and like squeaky. And he's talking about the circus, and even though it's like there's a sewer thing, there's almost the fact that he's being nice for so long that you think, oh, maybe it's if anything bad was going to happen, it would have happened already, right? But yeah, it doesn't end so well for Georgie. Literally,
go on. To say that the pop, 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 all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That really, for me, I don't know what it is, something like quite emotional about it, I suppose. You just have an emotional response to like a noise, but it's really disturbing. Really.
It's really disturbing.
Like more so than, I'm thinking about like Tim Curry talking about they all float down here.
Yeah.
And it's ominous, but I don't know, there's something really evocative about everything about this like bit of dialogue from the clown.
Yeah.
Really horrible.
Yeah. It is horrible. It's it all kind of culminates in him suddenly like going silent and just looking at him, which is then like, oh my God, that is so fucking horrible. Like just staring at him, but looking like a bit, like creepy, if you know what I mean, a bit pervy almost. And then his eyes go yellow and he just turns into this, like this monster mouth basically comes out. And that shot where he's like, it looks like his face is bulging as his multi-teethed mouth comes out and bites the arm off Georgie. And then poor old Georgie's like, ah! Like with one arm fucking missing, and then just gets dragged into the sewer. And that's how the film opens.
Horrible.
It's really fucking horrible. And it's out and out but going like, there's going to be blood, there's going to be gore, it's going to be fucking disgusting. straight out the gate.
I did have an issue with this on reflection, because I never like this kind of when you see kids like in pain. I mean, this is so graphic, and again, thinking about the old TV version, I don't think I think it just gets dragged into the sewer.
Yeah,
but you don't see all this. It's really over the top. It always sets me a little bit against the director, because in my opinion it's like a cheap shortcut to getting you invested, because if you kill a kid or an animal, that's always going to upset the viewer. Rather than the thing to do is build up characters that you're invested in, so that you are then scared for their futures and their plight.
Yeah,
you're always going to get something out of the audience if you like kill a kid, and here we see Georgie in like screaming in fear and pain. Obviously, yeah. So I feel like we're being manipulated in quite a cheap way here. I thought it was excessive.
I thought it was kind of serving the story as a whole, because Georgie represents childhood, literally. So it's kind of like, it's basically from like what I was saying before as well, saying that, this is about the loss of childhood completely, because Georgie is the younger. There's no one younger there, I believe, than Georgie in the whole film. And he is fucking brutally murdered. So it's kind of, for me, I was thinking, right, okay, it's symbolic of the film overall, because it's like going, the end of childhood. Your life as you know it as a child is over. You can't just go fucking skipping down the road with the like little boats. Like that's it in terms of like a symbolism side of it. But secondly, it's also setting up the fact that we're now about to stay with kids throughout the film. All right, a little bit older, but still kids. And we know now that there is a very real, very gory threat. So it's kind of setting up the fact of like, it's not like, ooh, maybe, or could they get out of it? It's like, there is a fucking monster killing kids in a gory way possible. And this is what you're going to have to be taking on throughout the rest of the film. So it's keeping that in the back of your mind, being like, there is a real threat to the kids from here on out that you're aware of. And I know what you're saying. It feels like a cheap shot to be like, ooh, just killed a kid. But I do think there's some merit in having it open the film.
It. Because that's what you get at this point, I believe.
Yeah.
We see the word finally.
It. That's what it is. I love that it does get a bit funny later on when they're like saying it. That we have to go get it.
It.
And it's just like, yeah, okay. But then also you kind of know he's called Pennywise as well, but fine. Yeah, so that opening bit, if you haven't got the stomach for that, you're probably going to want to leave, turn it off by that point. So then we go to this bit where Mike is killing, is it like goats or sheep or something? Sheep. And yeah, he can't kill this animal. He can't do it, can't go through with it. And the old guy is like, oh, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, you're going to be the lamb to the slaughter if you don't wisen up or whatever. And he's like, I can't do it. I can't. I'm not like my father or whatever. Get out of here, kid, or whatever. And I was thinking, okay, like, I don't think it's quite, I think it's a bit much trying to get this kid to kill a sheep and blasting him in the head with this like air gun thing. And I know it kind of comes into play later on as like the weapon. But yeah, I was sitting there thinking, oh, can't you leave off him? Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, as a vegan, that was my kind of reading as well. But I mean,
like, you fucking do it, old man. Like, why are you getting a kid to do it? So, like, again, it's like these fucking adults. To be honest, he's the adult that's probably the least weird. He feels a bit more normal.
Yeah, that's true. We're just basically setting up this character's like story arc, aren't we?
Yeah.
Ultimately, his development's pretty straightforward, linear arc, really, and it's all about, as you see, he's going to have to man up, toughen up. Yeah,
it's about kind of bravery and all that, and his is probably the darkest backstory of all of them, I would imagine, which we'll kind of get onto. But then we hit this school, and then I like this bit because it feels like, the opening shot of the school in Donnie Darko or something with Tears for Fears, or, it's very Stranger Things because we're now in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that whole, like, it tries to do like, it's an 80s high school. Remember that you saw on like TV and the films at that time. And, you got the nerds and, the loser club and all this stuff. And you got the jocks and the bullies and all this. And it feels like familiar territory for people. There's almost like a kind of safety to it, which is quite cool. And then, you've got Beverly, who is the girl, and she's smoking in the toilets and she gets trash poured on her by this bully girl. But yeah, like around this whole like, hey, we're just kids going to school. You see like signs saying like curfew 7 p.m. And like the police are there with one of the mums of the missing kid. So there's this like periphery danger, this periphery threat that's constantly like around, that's just making you aware. What did you think of this whole like set up, this 80s cool thing?
I loved it. It was something I thought, stylistically it's a big difference to the TV version, because I think that was set in the 60s.
Yeah, like the book was.
Yeah, so updating it to the 80s, I mean, it's an obvious move because obviously the demographic of the audience that they're going to be trying to appeal to are, guys that see, about our age probably.
Us, yeah.
So nice nostalgic hit, setting it in the 80s, and obviously, just very, popular at the moment. So bankable thing as well, obviously echoes of like Stranger Things. Like you said, I've forgotten about that Donnie Darko element as well.
Yeah.
But I liked all that cozy 80s nostalgia, and like you said, it works to set up a cozy feeling that they can then undermine.
Exactly, yeah. And it's very on trend at the moment as well.
Yeah.
So then we see this little fat kid called Ben, and Beverly's really nice to him, and obviously like he fancies her. Now when I was watching this first time, I was like, she looks like 18 and he looks about 10.
Yeah.
I was like, she looks so much older than him, and they might be the same age in real life, I don't know. But I remember looking at it going, of course he fancies her, but he will never have a shot with her. And it's not just because he's fat, it's because it's like he is like a tiny boy, and not that she looks like a woman, I'm going to get into very murky water here, but she looks older than him is what I'm trying to say. And it just was like, this is weird, but
it's great though. He's really instantly likable. There's something plucky about him. He's not just a loser.
Yeah. He's quite funny
even in that
well.
first scene, he conveys, some kind of like resilience.
He's got a good, the actor kid, Jeremy Ray Taylor, I think is his name. He's really, he really plays the part really well. And it's really brave, especially when he puts this, like, he's only in a pair of pants later. It's just this fat kid. Yeah, I was like, wow, hats off to him. Clothes off. No, don't say that. That's weird.
Hats off to all the kids who take their clothes off around the world.
You like to get into
on film.
White little undies on film. So Bill goes back and sees his dad, and it's like, you know, he's trying to, like, he's looking at like the sewer maps or whatever and all this stuff. And Georgie and Bill's dad is like, oh, he's dead. That's it. He's gone. Forget about him. Whatever. And Bill's like, okay. And yeah, so already it's like the adults are just like dicks, basically. And you also see, I should say, that the bully, there's the bullies at the school as well, who were like, it's lucky, you know, you got a free pass because your little kid brother died, but that's it. Next year we're going to come back and kick your ass or whatever. So there's this classic kind of high school mentality. You know.
It's good stuff, isn't it? It reminds me of Stand By Me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Also by Stephen King.
Yeah. Just like his dad here as well. It's like not just being a dick, but kind of like reverting to like normal adult behaviour.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously like Bill doesn't want to. He's still, you know, he still believes that he can find and save Georgie.
Mm. I think,
and that's kind of like his driver for the whole film. And like I think his kind of like arc is probably like the main thrust of the story here.
Yeah.
So setting that up here at this point is like really obviously quite important and pivotal, because all the kids have got a reason for wanting to tackle it, but his is probably the one that's got the most like emotional depth, or the one that's most developed.
Yeah, true. And that kind of plays out, I won't talk about it too much, but in It Chapter 2 as well, that continues, and it does become, as you said, like the catalyst, really, like Georgie, just trying to find Georgie. And the fact that, he was at the beginning of the film, he's basically like, oh, I'm sick, I can't come out and play with you. So he feels like guilty. The fact that Georgie went missing when he could have like gone out and played with him. So it's him kind of dealing with that and trying to, trying to live with himself for it to a degree. And yeah, but there's also like looking back when I watched it like second and third time or whatever, I was looking out for, and also in the second film I was looking out for this as well, but almost as if like, is there some kind of conspiracy within the adults that they, you know what I mean? They're just aware of this problem and don't do anything about it. And that's never really answered. But scenes like this, where the dad's like, just leave it. He's dead. He's gone. Whatever. I remember like looking back at it thinking, is it because he knows something? Do you know what I mean? Like it's something they just have to live with, that their kids go missing every now and then.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because obviously as this story then develops and we get a bit more, some more facts, you do start to wonder, like, if this is something that's going on, with a degree of frequency and regularity, people must be aware, but that's never divulged.
No, never go into it.
But certainly, like, the parents are at least totally ineffectual.
Yeah, at the very least.
Yeah.
Stupid adults. So Mike is kind of just minding his own business or whatever, and he gets like a vision of these people burning inside going, help me, whatever. It's like, and then he sees Pennywise in the background, and there's all these like hanging meats back there. I think they're supposed to be bodies maybe. And you're like, oh, what the fuck? That's really freaky. And then basically the bullies like almost run him over, like, get out of my country or something like that, something racist. And he's like, oh my God. And this is kind of like what happens throughout this first bit of the film, is that each of them have their own like personal thing that they're dealing with, their own personal horror, and, relationship with the it monster. And that's his. And you find out, I can't remember when you find out, but basically his parents were trapped in this fire, and he was too scared to open the door to help them. So they just died because he didn't open the door. So they just burnt alive, screaming at him to help him. That's what I mean. It's like the darkest backstory out of all of them.
That scene, it was really well done. It's really horrifying when you see those hands coming through the door. And this is, like you said, this is the first time that he sees, Pennywise. It's like a silhouette of Pennywise, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like quite
Hanging
far in the
around,
distance, yeah.
It's good, I think, that this early in the film, they just crack on and start, driving this forward.
Yeah.
Establishing already, then there's this pattern then of each kid having their own separate experience, dependent on their particular fear or anxiety. These bullies, this is where you really establish, these aren't just your normal kind of high school bullies. They're not just going to push you over and steal your lunch money. And this is attempted murder.
Yeah.
Auto-vehicular homicide.
Exactly. They wanted to run him over. There's that added, fucking hell, that's a bit much to it. But yeah, you're right. It does kind of, again, establish that threat a little bit more. It's also,
these are seriously dangerous kids.
Yeah. But you're right in terms of and I think this is one of the things I really liked about this film is that the horror element and the scare factor never lets up. So I like a lot of slow burners where it's things are hinted at and then it all kind of goes mental in the last 10 minutes of a movie or something. But I felt like with this, I was thoroughly entertained throughout just because there was all these it was never scared itself of putting in something scary and something that would be one of the best bits of a horror movie and peppering them throughout the entire thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for a film with a long running time, it really did not feel that long at all. It didn't outstay its welcome. Really good pace all the way throughout.
Yeah. I have to say, this was probably my film of the year of 2017 as well. Just throwing that in there now, because I remember at the time thinking, as you said, it's just got the perfect pace, great scares, really imaginative. And yeah, just these little fucking vignettes like this, these little scenes that are just, done to perfection, really, really well thought out and constructed and shot. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, so sorry, then we go to this kid training for his bar mitzvah. What's his name again? Is it? It's not Eddie. It's
Ezekiel?
Stanley. Fucking
Stanley.
Ezekiel. No, it's not Ezekiel. Stanley Man. And yeah, there's this weird painting in the background. And yeah, he's really freaked out by it. And do you remember that? It's I think she plays a flute or something, or maybe I just made that up. But that painting is fucking horrible, and it is amazing at the same time. It's a bit like Francis Bacon almost. Yeah.
This is strange. I didn't quite get this. And even at the end of the film, I was still thinking about this. Because all the other kids, their fears are logical. And this one, I mean, you're kind of set up, the character has got an issue with the father. So the father's obviously very overbearing.
Yeah.
And seems to be some kind of like a rabbi or something.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd think, given that, his fear would be directly linked with that. And he's having this bar mitzvah. But instead his fear is just there's a scary painting. It's a bit tokenistic.
Yeah, I think there's two things. So it's the one thing, when you're a kid, there's always something that kind of scares you for no reason, if you know what I mean. Yeah. If it is a weird painting or, an object or something, that's one thing. But what I thought it represented was the fact that he goes in there to train for his bar mitzvah. It's in his dad's office. Uh-huh. So he relates that to his father, one, and because it's in the synagogue or whatever, and it's training to be a Jew. What am I talking about? You know what I mean? Practicing for his, his military service or something like that. What's your training background? Jew. I spent 15 years as a Jew. Special forces. No, I didn't mean that.
Anyway,
I think it's the fact that it's a representation of that, if you know what I mean. His dad's office of being Jewish, of having to like train for all this practice for all this stuff, learning the
Jew stuff,
the book, learning about being Jewish. It's all happening there, and that's the photo that kind of looks upon him. So that's what I think in terms of why that is his chosen thing.
That makes sense. So,
but like, what's
thank
the
you for
alternative?
explaining that.
Like a scary Orthodox Jew coming at him.
Well, that would.
Do you know
that's what I would
do?
have liked. I think that would have been more satisfying and more related to the character. I mean, what you're saying makes sense to me now, but yeah, it didn't quite land with me.
Right.
Whereas, like a really proper old Orthodox Jew, like with the hat and the curly hair,
yeah,
that could be quite intimidating.
Scary. What I love is that he doesn't even look any different. He's just like a normal Orthodox Jew. He's just inciting this kind of fear in this
Maybe
kid.
with like a scythe or something, or a sickle.
Dreidel. Yeah. Well, apparently the woman was an actual originally it was a woman. Like I think a woman actually played the part, and then they just kept adding more and more CG to it, and were just like, you know what, let's just make it the painting. So yeah. I think there's an actual actress underneath all that who didn't actually get her time of day. Never mind.
She's probably looking forward to seeing herself on the debut. Probably turned up on the red carpet.
Yeah,
with like her husband, her kids.
Yeah, that's me. Oh,
and they're like, "There's Mummy." That thing with the weird, like banana-shaped head.
And then we go into is it Eddie, who's the guy who's always the kid that's always sick, and I love the fact that his mum is this like creepy, sweaty, fat woman. And again, it just emphasizes the fact that the adults are just fucking weird. And his mum has like, it's almost as if she has this like weird sexual attraction to him or something like that. Cause she's all like, you know, just later on when she asks for a kiss and all this stuff, it's all, and she wants like to have him and to like, you know, overbearing mother or something like that. There's something just really fucking horrible and weird about it.
The tone of the scene supports that.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, to the credit of the direction, I suppose, is that he makes all of that dialogue very awkward. But then I like that he's got that Richie character there, brings some levity to proceedings.
Yeah, true. Otherwise, it might be just too weird. Because she's in the shadows. She's literally in the dark, which is fucking weird as well. And and it's here actually, where she asks for a kiss, and you're just like, oh, it's just something really fucking uncomfortable about the whole thing. It's a really great scene.
And then Richie makes a quip. I can't remember what it is though.
Can I have one too, or something like that?
Yes. I'll come over and give you one. Something like that.
I'll come over and give you one. It's not that.
Sure.
I'll come over and give you one.
It's that wonderful...
Dude, that's my mum.
It's that wonderful wordplay that's at the core of it. You know, even the title "It" is a reference, but potentially to a member.
Yes. Yeah, a real monster with teeth. That's what I call it.
Maybe we should have a discussion. Sexual double entendre at the heart of it.
I'm sure you could actually do an entire episode on that. I'm pretty sure. So then we see the little fat kid, Ben, is in the library, and he's looking at looking at pictures. And it's quite cool, this bit, because this is the first time I was like, man, this is great. Because in the background, the librarian, who's all blurred out, is just staring at him and with this horrible smile. and she's not in focus. And you, like, a lot of people I spoke to just missed it completely. And I was like, that is one of the most disturbing things of this entire film. Just that shot. She's not in focus. It's just fucking weird.
There's a kind of history, I think, of scary librarians in horror films. Specifically, I remember from Ghostbusters, an early scene, and I always used to have trouble even watching that. And I actually had some flashbacks to that scene when I was watching this one now, because in a few moments' time, Ben goes down into the kind of like library vaults, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And has an experience with Pennywise, which is scary, but the real kind of horror is when he turns around and that librarian's just coming down the stairs. You get that kind of jump scare. But I actually got like a cold chill. I was like, it's that fucking librarian from Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Well, she was the saviour, if you remember, because it was actually the little boy or whatever carrying the fucking Easter eggs or something. And then, the weird librarian is at the other end saving him. It was weird that. Have you seen, going off on a tangent, have you seen what Dan Aykroyd is up to recently?
No.
You should. So I'd heard he'd gone a bit weird, but recently I listened to the Joe Rogan podcast, shout out. I don't really listen to him that much, but I listened to his episode on Dan Aykroyd, with Dan Aykroyd, I should say. It's about 2.5 hours long. And it is worth it because he is fucking mental.
What happened to him?
He believes that firstly, he believes that UFOs and aliens are real, that he's seen a bunch of UFO stuff. There are moments where he's constantly sniffing as well throughout this, and I feel like, the drugs have really fucked him up. And he believes in everything, basically. And he's got this new vodka out that's in like a crystal skull, because he believes that crystal skulls were, an alien thing, even though it's been disproven. But when these conspiracy theorists and these, these strange people, let's say, believers in the weird and wonderful, they talk with facts. So they're like, this has been proven, because you, as a normal human being who's got other things to do, you're not going to have facts to disprove it at your hand. Like, they have these facts to prove it.
Yeah.
But also, like, what he says, I was looking up afterwards, is just fucking bollocks. It's just completely not true. But it's like, it's really, if you want to see how a mighty man has fallen, it's that.
Well, it sounds
not
like
a mighty man, but
it sounds like he's in a prime place to write another Ghostbusters film, because I think that could be
he's
all kinds of wacky fun.
Yeah, well, they just finished producing. They just finished the production, I should say, of the new Ghostbusters, which is going to have them all in, apparently.
No,
ones that are alive. Yeah,
really.
Yeah. What's funny is that on the original, I think it's the original Ghostbusters film, or maybe Ghostbusters 2 film, they're doing a little press tour, and there's a bit with Dan Aykroyd going like, "Yeah, well, the thing is, like, when I took my kids to see Ghostbusters, they were like, 'Is it real?' And I had to be honest with them. I sat there and I said, 'Yeah, yeah.' The ghosts are real. These things could happen."
Wow.
And I remember watching it. This was ages ago before I listened to the Joe Rogan thing. I remember thinking, "Is that a joke?" Not a joke. He completely believes it's real, and that's, funny enough, that's why Ghostbusters happened. Was because he used to have like these what they call seances or whatever when he was a kid with his family. And these mediums used to come round. And that's how Ghostbusters got made in the first place. It's because he believes in ghosts. So, call it a blessing or a curse or whatever. But it gave us one of the funniest, movies of all time, some say, and I say.
So I'm inferring from that the director of It believes in demonic clowns.
Yes.
Has he gone on record?
Not on record, no. Who are actually just big spiders. Spoiler. So I should say that. Yeah, so the Ben has his little run in at the bottom, and he hears reading about these kids died in an explosion. I can't remember really what it's about, but something happened years ago, basically,
and it's creepy.
Something bad happened, and it was creepy. Yeah, it's that headless kid.
Oh,
and it reminded me of a little bit of Evil Dead, if you remember, like the first one, Evil Dead, when it's maybe it was Evil Dead 2, whichever one, where it's his wife, the girlfriend he gets there with originally, and she's like dancing in the moonlight. Do you remember that? Without her head, and she's kind of throwing her head about. It's all like stop motion. Do you remember?
No, I don't. I can't remember that.
And it's quite, it sticks in my head. But just the way that he was moving and all that stuff, it kind of reminded me of that. Not that I'm saying it's influence, but I thought it was quite cool. So what happens next is this is a bit. This scene kind of haunted me a little bit, just because it's like the realness of it. The bullies kind of find him or whatever and threaten to like, beat him up, and they start punching him and all this stuff. And you see like the old couple come by in the car, and they just don't do anything to help. Again, adults are weird and unhelpful and just fucking strange. And also there's like a little red balloon at the back of that car.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I don't know what to think of that. I was like, is he saying that like the it monster is, with the adults? You know what I mean? I wasn't really sure why that balloon was there. Is it? No, I don't really know. Do you have an answer?
My reading of that was, again, thinking back at the end of the film, because I wanted to question, what was that all about? I think it was just something that you're not meant to take too literally. It just continues to escalate that sort of uneasy sense that adults are in control here. They're ineffectual. They turn a blind eye. The balloon, again, I think it just starts to just unsettle you really and raise more questions and doubt. I don't think it really is allowed to do anything other than kind of like start messing with your head.
Yeah, I wondered if it was because, if you remember, like later on, the bully kind of gets more and more, his mind gets kind of taken over by Pennywise.
Oh, yeah.
And it's at this point where it kind of escalates his bullying, where it goes from like he's getting really into it, it becomes like almost like a sexual thing as well. And then he starts carving his name on the kid's stomach. And I was thinking, even the other bully's like, whoa, hold on. And I was thinking, is that because the balloon is suggesting that Pennywise is there and starting to have some kind of influence over him?
Yeah.
Don't know. But yeah, as you said, it kind of does raise the like thing of like, oh fuck, something's happening, something's going to happen. The fucking balloon's there.
This was a harrowing scene.
Yeah, it was really like, Jesus, like horrible. It really kind of took you out of that. Hey, remember when everything was really great at that high school just like 10 minutes ago?
Yeah. And it's like an escalation from the trying to run that kid over. Now you can really, and you see the fear in the other guy's eyes as well. Like he's getting out of control.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this is a real, again though, it's kind of like Stand By Me. You really now start rooting for Ben, and you really want to see some justice done. These guys get their just desserts.
Yeah,
which pays off.
Certainly uncalled for.
It pays off quite soon.
Yeah, you're right. So they lose the knife or whatever, and then the bully's like, "Oh, my dad's going to kill me." So Ben kind of jumps over and runs away, and the rest of the kids the rest of the bullies start going to look for him, and then we cut to our loser club, who are looking into the sewer. And it's quite nice here because then you start getting a bit more of that interaction with each other. They all have their own character traits and all this stuff. And it's kind of setting the their relationships with each other up a lot here, just in this little scene. Anyway, they find a shoe which belongs to one of the missing kids. And I quite like the joke here which Richie makes of like, how do you think Kate feels or something, hopping around in this sewer? I was thinking it's fucking brilliant. Like really like dark, but yeah, like Richie just adds this like levity to it. Apparently some of the bickering was improvised as well that
really?
Richie has with the others, yeah. Which is quite cool.
They're a great cast, aren't they?
Yeah, they're really good. Really good. The Eddie kid I saw recently in Shazam as well, which is not the best movie, but he is really good in it. So I think, they're going to go a long way. And Richie obviously just is, the Stranger Things kid. He's kind of everywhere now as well. He's in, recently they're re-releasing Addams Family as an animation. Did you see this as a cartoon?
No, Although it's funny you say that, because I wondered if this film, actually, when I first saw it was being made, if it was actually the long-awaited reboot of the Addams Family franchise, and we were finally, at long last, going to get Cousin It in his own standalone movie. But then I saw, they're just remaking the Stephen King thing. And I can imagine a lot of cinema goers turned up to see this and were disappointed, expecting to see Cousin It in all his hairy glory.
Just a wig. Wig with feet is basically Cousin It.
And they could have thrown those people a bone, maybe had Cousin It do a short cameo here, but which they didn't choose to do, which is, it's a bit selfish, really.
The voice. So go on.
We got a whole portion there of your audience that are going to leave the cinema just feeling disappointed.
Yeah, going, what do you give that any thumbs up? And
I'm just going to go, well, the clown was nice, but it's not the same, is it?
Yeah.
But that's. I'm happy to hear that there is a new Addams Family movie coming, so those people are going to finally, get some justice.
Well, it looks terrible.
Oh.
And the kid is Richie, actor, is going to be playing the who is the son? I'm trying to look for it now as we're talking.
Pudsey Bear.
Pugsley, that's right.
Pudsey Bear.
Yeah. Finn Wolfhard is the guy's name. He's going to be playing Pugsy Bear. But guess who is doing the voice for it in Addams Family?
Bill Skarsgård.
Imagine.
The voice. He doesn't talk. He's mute, isn't he?
Well, is he?
Oh, does he kind of go?
Well, I don't think it was. I saw the trailer. I don't think he speaks in the trailer, but I know whose voice it is, and I just confirmed it in front of me.
Dan Aykroyd.
No, that would be so good, though. No, Snoop Dogg.
Wow.
Interesting turn for that. Yeah, sorry. So anyway, I can't remember where we were. So the fat kid comes along and they go and help him out, and one of the bullies goes into the sewer, and basically there's a cool scene where he gets killed by Pennywise.
Yeah.
So
it's a really good feeling.
Yeah, seeing someone evil be killed always makes you feel warm inside. Yes. So at this point, they go to the pharmacy to stitch the kid up, and if you notice, there's actually in the wall in the background, there's actually a little Pennywise picture looking at them. Yeah, I didn't notice it until afterwards. Someone said, and if you look to the right hand side of the frame, of the wall. Yeah, it's a little Pennywise clown watching them. Little drawing. So yeah, it's quite funny when they go into the actual pharmacy store. There's Beverly looking at some tampons basically, and again, it's her coming of age story as well, obviously.
Yeah.
And there's some visual gags here, which is quite funny. The way she walks to the aisle and sees them, and then puts the tampons behind her. Little things like that. It just makes it a little bit, kind of brings it back to that whole they're just kids kind of thing.
All these little things work though, I think, to build up the audience's relationship with these characters.
Yeah, it's done really nicely.
Yeah, you really warm to them.
Yeah, and then we have this scene where she basically flirts with this weird, horrible pharmacist who's the bully girl's dad, basically. And he's like, oh, you look just like Lois Lane. And it's really creepy. It's really horrible. And again, it's kind of setting up that adults are the threat, the fact that he's basically being a fucking pedo. And that they're creepy and they're weird, and that just adults in this entire film are just not to be trusted whatsoever.
Yeah, the fact that they then go out into the alleyway and are patching him up, he's got a pretty nasty wound. And logically, you kind of go, oh, get him to a hospital. But they don't. And I think this is another turning point where it's in the absence of any responsible adults, they're becoming resourceful.
Yeah, you're right. It's, it's also what I like about, when they're trying to patch him up and all this stuff is that they're talking over one another. And I saw a thing recently saying how like good movies with kids in basically do that. Like the Goonies did it all the time, where like they're constantly just talking over the top of one another. It's just this like, noise, because that's what kids do, right? That are friends. You're not waiting for the other person to speak. And they do it a bit here when they like argue and all this. And it just makes it feel a bit more natural.
I can see how that works in a movie. Probably not a good idea for a podcast.
No, people, seem to do it. I always think, and maybe it's a British thing, because some of the American podcasts I listen to, people just butt in before someone said something, and then they'll just butt in back, and there's a bit of to and from,
so
to
rude.
and fro. And that's all I'm thinking when I'm listening to it, going, oh, they never let them finish. Let them finish the point. But then like no one seems to care, or they return back to it later. So I don't know, it's weird. So maybe it does work really well for a podcast. It's this constant nattering.
Blah, blah, blah.
Certainly a nightmare to edit, but that's it. So Beverly comes back, and there's this weird, creepy show on TV. Again, all the any kind of anything like culture-ness in terms of like the TV and like the little events that they have there and stuff like that. The advertisements are all like just a bit weird. The dad here is obviously really creepy, and there's the whole subtext of the fact that her dad is molesting her. It's just her and him. And again, adults being the threat here. And she hates him so much, she just doesn't want to appear attractive. Well, this is what I gathered from it anyway. She doesn't want to look too girly. She doesn't want to basically get him going. So she cuts off all her hair. So she is, feels less attractive to her dad, basically. And then, So it's almost as if Pennywise kind of comes in, almost as if each time when there's like a fear of an adult, I don't know, I'm just making that up a little bit, but but
from a less practical perspective as well, I think it's just like taking back control. Like that's the one thing she can exert control over, and she chooses to chop off her hair. Yeah.
And now we have this nice little sequence where they jump into the lake, basically. Beverly jumps in first, so kind of showing that she's this very, she's not just some little Rose or something. She's like, I can do this. You boys are just stupid. She jumps in, and you've got some like music playing, and it's just, they're nice, they're being kids, but there's also that element where like they're all like staring at her. She's just in her underwear, which is a bit weird because the movie's kind of sexualizing her a little bit, but then I guess it's supposed to be from the perspective of the kids that have never seen a girl like that before. And it's quite funny, but I was a bit like, it's a bit awkward, but I kind of understand the context of what it is, what's going on, basically. And it's just this weird, that whole scene is just this like nice moment where they're allowed to just be kids for like 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah.
And then they talk a bit about Ben goes on to like the fires in the factory or whatever, and how Derry has like 6 times the national average of people dying or disappearing. And they're like, well, yeah, it's really weird. And he's like, yeah, I'll show you more. Come back to my place. And there's this nice little running gag about the fact that he likes New Kids on the Block and all this stuff.
This is great.
And that she's like keeping this secret. And it's nice because it's that you feel like you're in on it too. As the audience member, and that they've got this little, thing that's theirs almost. And obviously he really fancies her, and there's a trust there. And and he's like the new kid as well. He's supposed to be. But yeah, when you get there, you see how much research he's actually done. And just Pennywise is just everywhere in all these pictures. And they find out that basically there's this old house where there's like a well or something, where they think it could be, or I can't remember. There's this old house where stuff happened, but I don't think they've worked out that the sewers go back there yet or anything.
Yeah.
So it's, the kids kind of like coming together to solve the crime, Scooby-Doo style.
Yeah.
And then we see the sick kid, Eddie, going past said house. and that diseased old man who's like full of pus and all this stuff. He's got like a screwed up face. Kind of chases him, and then he sees Pennywise out the back, and there's this cool scene with the bubbles bursting and whatever. And that was quite a nice little scene. I quite liked the fact that it's like, again, his fear is of disease, basically. And then it's just like this walking diseased thing. Comes up to him.
I mean, it's pretty literal, wasn't it? And just kind of like an excuse, really, just to do a really cool, horrible, weird zombie thing.
Yeah, I wish it could have been more practical. If the zombie thing felt very CG.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of this feels very CG, but him in particular, I was like, it would have been better if it just felt more physical, more real.
Yeah, it looked like something out of a computer game, didn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Never mind. So Bev gets a postcard, this kind of romantic postcard with a little poem in, and she doesn't, it's from Ben, but she thinks it's from Bill. Bill and Ben, just thought about that. Can't put men. Didn't clock that. It's not on purpose. That's an old British TV show, by the way. And I'm talking like from like the 50s or something. Yeah, exactly.
Because there's a little bit of backstory as well, isn't there? Beverly and Bill, in that they had a kiss in a like school theatre production.
Oh, really? I don't remember that.
Because then everyone's, her thing as well is that everyone thinks that she's
a slut.
Playing around with all the boys.
Yeah.
But actually, it turns out that's her first and only kiss, except with her dad. So that's why I think she's... And later on she reveals, doesn't she? So she's got a hankering for the Bill.
Yeah, there's that. It's kind of like love triangle going on. But I didn't realise you said about the play thing. Or maybe I did and I forgot it. But yeah,
it's quite sweet, really.
So she's in the bathroom, which is kind of like her safe space from a fucking pervy dad. And then she basically has this like moment at the sink. She hears voices, I think, or something. And then there's just like, she basically, the hair that she cut off is basically attacking her, which could be seen as like a metaphor for the fact that it was her hair. The whole reason she cut it off, whether it was not to appear attractive, and now that's kind of coming back to get her, and with it is tons of blood. And obviously that's a metaphor for a symbol for the fact that she's going through a period and becoming a woman and all this stuff. And and the room just gets covered in this blood. And it's interesting that and this is kind of one of the things I was umming and ahhing about, the fact that the dad doesn't see it. And I was thinking, is it because it's a woman's thing? But obviously not, because the kids see it as well. So it's like, is it that the dad is ignoring it and he's just weird? Or is it that, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the kids see it, but he doesn't. I never really came to the conclusion of why that is.
Yeah, I like that it's not explained. Because, I mean, this is probably one of my favourite scenes in terms of like the kids and their fears. Because like you said, it's directly linked to her anxiety around her period. Specifically that suggests to the father that she might be sexually active, available. So what's the one thing she gets? Tons and tons and tons of blood. The fact that he can't see it, I think it does say something about his attitude. I think it's not that he can see it and he's not saying he can't. I think it's making some kind of comment on his short-sightedness. But then also, it does seem to be that the adults in the town can't engage with what's going on.
Yeah.
Is it that they can't engage with the lives of the kids? We're never quite clear why. Is it the kids that have the relationship with Pennywise? But there's more to find out.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is something like that. Literally, it's the fact that the fact he can't see it is because he can't see that Beverly's becoming a woman.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So the Bill looks at Georgie's goes to Georgie's room because it's dripping water, and he finds a turtle, which is a kind of, in the book, I won't go into this too much, but like the book gets fucking weird by the end of it, how like God is a turtle, basically. And so there's a few turtle references in this. But yeah, I won't go into that because that's a whole other spiel about, it's basically Stephen King on drugs for most of the time. And yeah, stuff like this is what happened. So he starts seeing Georgie kind of walking around, and follows him to the basement where he's like smiling really creepily. You know, you'll float too. He starts screaming. But yeah, Pennywise is using him literally as a puppet. And then basically runs at Bill, and Bill legs up the stairs, and that's it. But all these like little visual things, like the way that Pennywise runs, and the way that he almost catches him, and he just like slinks, his eyes roll back, and he slinks back into the water. All these like visuals just look fucking cool and like really creepy and weird. Yeah. And even though that scene is kind of there to reinforce the fact that, you know, Bill can't get over the loss of Georgie, it's still like, it's a good scare. It's still, we've already know that, we didn't have to see that, but it's just an extra scene to be like, look, Bill's going through this as well. He's, you know, having his own like,
killing two birds with one stone.
Yeah. And then this next bit's weird because the kids come and they help Beverly because they can see the blood, and they help clean it in this really weird, like upbeat montage.
Yeah. It's like the Rocky training video, right?
Yeah. It's really strange. And like they're just like, cleaning up this blood is so super great. Helping each other out before the dad gets back and rapes Beverly. Yeah, and it's a whole thing of like they're working together. They're a team now, you know, they're doing it for each other and all this, even though at the same time you're just thinking, it's just Bill wants to stick his dick inside her, basically. Bill thinks that he's being the hero when really it's just he's thinking with his dick. That's kind of what I feel like. It's kind of happening.
He doesn't know what's happening. He
doesn't know what's happening down there. Doesn't know what's going on. He's clearing up period blood all over the bathroom.
Developing a pretty niche fetish.
Yeah. Could get AIDS by that point. So, anyway, this is where they have only now just start talking about what they've seen. And they're like, oh, God. And then they go to help Mike, who's he's basically being forced to eat the meat that he is, you know, what, granddad or whatever makes, or wherever he works. Yeah. He's delivering the meat, something like that. And what I love is like Pennywise. Pennywise is kind of crouching, like waving a fucking an arm, which I don't know, is it Georgie's arm or just a random arm? Like going like, hey, yeah, like blood down his mouth, like, hey, can I help you out? Or something like that. Yeah, and I thought that scene was just so fucking weird because it's like, it's kind of played for laughs as well as being completely horrific at the same time, which makes it even that more disturbing. Like they could have gone with a really like, oh, it's just some eyes in the grass or something, just leering on. But they haven't. They've just gone full out like he's there waving a fucking arm around like an idiot. And that's the stuff that I like about this film is that, you know, it tries not to do what you're expecting, because every horror film these days follows the same tropes all the time. Like I saw, going off on another tangent, I saw Eli, a Netflix film, night before, and it was just so awful. But it just hit the whole like jump scare here, and it's like, you know exactly what's going to happen at each beat. But with something like that, and with it, you just don't really expect. You don't really expect to see him sitting there like that, waving a fucking dismembered arm, as if to say hello.
I suppose that's like we were saying earlier. This film, they keep giving the audience kind of what they want. It's nicely paced out. And it's like constantly delivering entertainment.
Yeah. And then they have the Rock War, which again is like a little kid moment, even though I was literally there thinking, this is so dangerous. Hitting each other, throwing rocks at each other. They're hitting each other in the face.
But we've already established that this guy's potentially willing to kill.
Yeah.
So I think it's justified. We've already escalated to this level of violence.
True, but it's done as like a kind of jokey kiddie thing. It's not done like it's not done as like a full on serious whatever. And then isn't it Beverly that throws basically the big rock that kind of gets them to fuck off basically at the end.
So satisfying.
Yeah, and Mike's kind of saved because he hasn't really had much to do by this point. He's more prominent in the second half.
Yeah.
But I think in the book, it's Mike that's actually doing all the research.
Oh, you're right.
So they talk about how the kids are missing, and Ben says about how it happens every 27 years. And and then we hear a bit more about Mike talking about how his parents were trying to knock the door down to get to him, but it was too hot. Rich says that he's afraid of clowns. And I was thinking, maybe it's this like Richie's thing, the fact that Pennywise is a clown. And you'll see like a shot of like someone on stage handing a balloon to the audience. Apparently that's Bill Skarsgård. I don't know if that's true, but apparently that's him in another kind of clown setup. But it's quite interesting that like Pennywise is a clown and Richard's fear is clowns.
I know. I was like, you're not going to do well out of this.
Yeah. So they look at maps and they realise that the sewers all kind of come together at this well house or whatever it's called. And then there's a cool scene with the slides where they're looking at it and Pennywise basically fucking attacks them. There's this huge like thing that's kind of like with each slide shot, it's kind of getting closer and all this stuff. Really fucking cool, that bit. I really loved that.
This was really scary, actually. It was good. We got good jump scare, but then the whole thing was really creepy, and it set up a new precedent for what he's able to do.
Yeah, like he doesn't care. They don't have to be alone now. Basically, they can be all together, and he'll still appear, which is one thing. And he's like invaded them in their own homes, so it's not, it's great. So they decide to go to the house, and Bill makes this little speech about how he can't get over Georgie being dead, basically. And this is quite cool. It's like a bit of like a haunted house. They go in and they're able, they all kind of go through their own little like bit. Like Eddie falls through the ceiling and hurts his arm. And what other bits are there? I can't remember. There's like the Room of Clowns, which has like the original Pennywise clown. And Richie sees like a poster with his like name missing, and he's scared that he's scared of death, literally. And he sees like a coffin with him in it and all this stuff. So all that's quite interesting, but it's quite cool. And there's a bit with the fridge, if you remember, where he comes out of the fridge.
This is amazing.
Twisted up, and that just looks really fucking cool.
The way he unfolds and unfurls is amazing. And it's kind of related, I think, as well to the fact that so he's just broken his arm.
Yeah, good point. Never thought about that.
And he kind of like looks all like broken and disjointed. It's kind of like he's saying like the same fears that afflict you aren't my problem, mate. Yeah,
that's true. But Beverly's able to kind of, gets like a poker or something and smacks him in the head, and then he shrivels away down this well. This creepy fucking well in the bottom of the house. Anyway, but they come outside and we see that the sick Eddie's mum basically goes off with him and like, oh, you kids, stay away from him or whatever and all this. Then they have this fight between themselves. So again, there's this like the hero's journey kind of thing where, everything's falling apart by this point in the movie. They hate each other now, basically. Yeah. And they have a montage of them and they're all kind of doing their own thing. And the bully kid is using a gun. He's about to shoot a cat, and which is horrible, obviously, making the audience hate him even more. And then you find out that the dad is the police officer that we saw briefly at the beginning. And to basically show his son up in front of his friends, he starts shooting at his feet. And it's a bit weird, this scene, because I was like, he realises his son is a dick, but he's just like a real disciplinarian about him. But he's also taking the piss out of being like, he calls him like a boy or something like that, like he's not really a man and all this stuff, like look at me fucking pussy or something like that. So really putting him down and a bad dad thing. But at the same time, I'm like, well, he is a cop and also his son is a dick. So he does kind of deserve it.
It's implying that his backstory is that he's also got an abusive upbringing. So it's another example then of shit parenting.
Exactly, shit adults generally. And then there's that weird show on TV again. It seems like they're all watching this weird children's show, and it's quite cool because it's so 80s and the way it's presented is so 80s. And the presenter is like, "Kill him, kill your dad," or whatever. And then you see Pennywise there as well, and so he kills his dad basically. And then we cut to Bev, and Bev is about to walk out, and you see the dad sitting in the shadows being pervy. It's like, "Oh, I don't like you being with the boys all the time," and he's all like sweaty and weird. And there's actually a scene in the book, if you remember, that she has sex with each of the boys.
Right.
This isn't in the movie, thank God, because it's weird. But I think, scenes like this is a little bit of a nod to it. It's like, you hanging around those boys. And the fact that she's supposed to be like this slut or whatever that they keep calling her, even though she's not at all. She's really nice and sweet and like just wants to have friends.
That happening in the book, that really undermines the character that I know from this film. Yeah,
it's a really weird. It's one of the things that stands out in my head with the book because it's just strange. It's really strange. But it's this thing of like, it's weird, not to go into it too much, but it's kind of like, it's like it's love or something like that. Like this way of like expressing how much she cares for all of them is by having sex with them. And the fact that I think it's like, I'll be the first for all of you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's done in such a way. But it's still a little bit strange, and it would be strange if they actually put it in the movie. So anyway, here the dad like knocks down the door, and I can't remember what happens here. He
goes to force himself on her, and she fights back.
Yeah, and then is that when it turns up? Pennywise turns up and takes her.
Yes,
I think it is that bit.
So yeah,
because it's cool because he's like really like. Because they always play at the framing here because he's really tall. He's like on the ceiling, basically, like standing as if he's too tall for the room. So you have to like the way your eye line is, where your eye line's going. When you go over, you look up. So it's a jump scare without you even consciously realizing it because your gaze is having to shift up to match Pennywise's eye line, if that makes sense, which makes it even more uncomfortable and weird. And looks strange because he's like he's too tall for the room.
Nice point.
Yeah. And then you see there's a few scenes of like Eddie and his mum controlling him, and she's just looks weird and she's all being horrible and stuff. And so they go.
Is this where you see his cast?
Yeah, the lover loser thing or whatever that gets signed.
I like nice little humorous touch there with him, and it's not explicitly referenced, but you just see he's changed it to lover.
Yeah.
This reminded me as well of that bit in the Sixth Sense where it's like revealed the mother's been like poisoning the kid or something. I mean, she hasn't been poisoning him, but
you don't know that.
Well, no, you don't actually.
Because they find out something about a placebo. They make the joke about the placebo. And she's like, these are placebos, they don't do anything. And then he says it wrong or something. And she's like, what?
But this is where what you kind of suspected all along is confirmed, that she, is kind of like smothering him.
Yeah.
Has been lying to him. And it's all about control, and it's all, Yeah, she's basically been mentally abusing him without him even realising it. Yeah, and this is where he realises it, and it's this is like the third scene in a row now of the kids turning on the adults.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, it is. Yeah, so they find out that Bev has basically been taken by Pennywise, and so they go to the house to go to go down the sewer. They're all like, working together now. Bev wakes up, I think, in the sewer bit, and she sees this mountain of belongings, basically, of stuff, and there's bodies are floating. It's quite a cool shot.
Yeah.
And then, there's this cool bit where she sees Pennywise dancing. He makes this little intro for himself, and it's this cool shot where he's doing this dance, but the camera's staying with his head as it goes up and down. So it just looks fucking weird. But yeah, she's like, I'm not afraid of you. She's all like, she's strong. She's facing up against her fears and her demons. And so he's like, oh, really? Look at this. And he opens his mouth. And basically there's a torch in there. There's three little sperms that are that have light bulbs in them. And then anyway, her eyes like glaze over and she floats up. And so as they're trying to like get down the well at the bottom, this is where the bully turns up and knocks Mike out, and they have a little fight, and the bully gets knocked down a well. See ya. And Mike
another
loses.
satisfying moment.
Yeah, but you don't know what's happened to him, and at that point anyway. And
that's true.
Mike loses his like gun thing. And meanwhile, is it Stan? Stanley, the Jewish kid, is kind of wandering off on his own, and he sees the fucking painting thing. And when they come across him, he's like getting his fucking face. He's just paralysed if you're on the floor, and he's just getting his face fucking like almost about to get bitten off by this painting. And anyway, the kids,
nightmarish.
Yeah, it's horrible. And I remember like when I saw that, I was just like, oh my God, that is the fucking worst thing. And he's just got these bite marks around his face.
Yeah.
It's really creepy. And he's like, you left me, you're not my friends. So obviously his mind is now broken to a degree.
These kids, I mean, they're dealing with this very well. Like everything they're being confronted with in this scene.
Imagine that. Imagine seeing that. Fucking hell. So everything's like building up here. And what's great is he does this like, the face kind of goes behind a wall, and then Pennywise comes back like, yeah, and goes back. Completely unnecessary, but it's the way it's done, it just, I don't know, it just made me laugh a little bit like, it was me. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, they keep running along, and they find Beverly, and she's floating, and Bill is seeing Georgie and having his own like drama going on. So they pull Beverly down, and Ben kisses her to wake her up, which works in this weird fairy tale bit, which is really strange.
I liked that. Like you say, it's straight out of a fairy tale. I don't know. I mean, I suppose what else could they have done at this point? But it makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah,
and it's nice for Ben because you're kind of rooting for Ben in a way. Not that you're not rooting for Bill, but it's like, you know, when they start talking about the postcard and Bill's just like, what are you talking about? And Ben's like, you know, it was me, but he's not saying anything. And he realises that like Bill is like, you know, getting the attention. Yeah, it's basically a cop blocker dick.
Just a thought on that little episode with Bill and Georgie here.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of, like I said, that scene at the beginning of the film, it's so horrible and sort of like distressing. But here to me, it's more, it didn't get my back up in the same way because it's like Pennywise emotionally manipulating Bill.
Yeah.
Rather than the director of the movie emotionally manipulating the audience. But it was just as sad, upsetting, horrifying. It was a nasty little scene again. It kind of really, it's just horrible seeing, you know, a little boy like that.
Yeah, being all fucked up.
But it worked here.
I found it weird that Pennywise gave him this cathartic emotional release, if you know what I mean, for him to have this little moment. But yeah, he basically, they fight Pennywise here. Like Bill kind of is a bit like, it's not you, you're dead. I realise that. I have to get over it. He doesn't fall for it as such, even though Georgie's like really trying to push all the cute buttons, or Pennywise is. So they fight him, and he basically becomes their fears. And they really hurt him here. They keep saying, they aren't afraid, and they're starting to like beat him up a bit. But it's a bit of back and forth. So you think he's getting fucked up, and then like he comes back a bit stronger. But yeah, they realise that's why Bev couldn't be hurt, because she wasn't scared. And there's this cool bit where he's like got the gun and he's shooting it, and it's like, oh, it's not loaded, and all these bits. So he's kind of toying with them, but they do start actually being able to beat him up, and he basically falls back down this well as his head like cracks and floats up a little bit, and it looks quite cool. Image.
They're always difficult to pull off, I think, these kind of scenes, because everything's built to this moment, and we're not clear as an audience, like the nature of what this creature is or its powers.
Yeah.
So you've got like a physical altercation, but then it's actually very metaphysical. There's no real like groundwork or rules applied, so it can be a bit hard to stomach. Do you know what I mean? Like,
well, especially
like
compared
what's going on here?
Yeah, when you see the second film as well, you're a bit like, why didn't he do this in the first film?
Okay, yeah.
Like, why is he letting himself essentially get beaten up by a bunch of kids? And that's kind of one of the things with both films that I kind of jump to and from, and I'm just like, how powerful is he? Like, why is this a problem for him? That these kids are just basically, it's like, if you get set on by like 4 10-year-old kids or whatever, 4 13-year-old kids, and you've got all this power, like, I don't understand why you're finding it such a problem. But I know it's not the point. It's a movie, but...
Well, I mean, makes sense, because that's where there's a little tiny logic gap, I think.
Yeah, but it's also the element of like, and this comes in more so in the second film without giving anything away, but the whole thing of being like, we're not scared of you, like makes him weaker, I guess, and more able to be defeated. So, because he's a metaphor anyway, he's one big metaphor, so...
Yeah.
But it's just the way that, as you said, it's this physical altercation.
That's it, yeah. It's like you say, he's defeated by them overcoming their fears, but actually he's weakened, and then they batter the shit out of him.
Yeah.
And push him down a well.
Yeah.
That's kind of what does him in the end.
Yeah.
Good swift kick to the hacky sack.
Yeah. See ya. And I can't remember what he says here, his final line is, but it's like something weird.
I'll be back.
I'll be back.
And then he does the thumbs up as he's going down the well.
Slow. That'd be so good.
Deleted scene.
Yeah, I would love that. So then it kind of cuts like normal time. And Bev says how she had a vision of when they were all older and they were back here again, and that they were scared. And so they swear if it ever comes back, that they will come back too. And they do a blood oath by cutting their hand and holding hands, and, and that's it.
This might have worked in the 1960s, but in the 1980s, at the height of the AIDS scare... Yeah. I honestly, I was wincing.
Yeah. It's also like, it's even that bit's quite graphic. They're cutting their hands.
Yeah, just shake on it, guys.
Exactly. Just, spit in the hand, if anything. And that's it. And that's the end of It, Chapter 1. So, they
have a little,
there's a smooch,
little kiss.
Yeah, I think Bill
nice.
Bill and Beverly have a little kiss, actually. You're right. And Ben, like, looks on, and he's just like...
all wistful.
Yeah, he's like twiddling with his little dick.
It's a nice moment. It's a good payoff for Bill, because, like I said, I think he's the main character in his story.
Yeah,
he's the main driver of the narrative, and he's shown a lot of heroic traits, and he kind of gets a little payoff.
Yeah, he's had that journey now. He's kind of got over Georgie's death in his head anyway, and he's got the girl, and that kind of works out. And that's kind of why in the second film, again, I won't give anything away, it's like, well, basically that's again about him dealing with Georgie and all this stuff. And it's like, we kind of already dealt with this. Like, we're still talking about this? Okay, cool. But yeah, overall, I thought this was a fucking great film. I really loved it. It's the best horror film I've seen, best modern horror film. One of the best modern. Start again. It's one of the best modern horror films that I've seen, basically.
Yeah, likewise. I thought it was great. And I think, like we said, it kind of really delivers a lot of like action and scares like throughout the whole film. A nice like level of creepiness. Yeah,
definitely. And, I still think that element of like having a monster, because it is kind of a monster movie, but having something that's one big metaphor for each different character and each of them having to overcome the monster by dealing with their own fear is something that is really fucking cool. And, and I think kind of resonates, in terms of inspiring stuff that, I do or write about. I just like the idea that, it's more like being scared of fear itself rather than the actual fear, and how like the whole thing of horror as a genre being more about a personal journey. Like the monsters are always obstacles representing something else rather than, the big bad boogeyman or whatever. And it just shows that it works, horror works, and it can work on a very deeper level than most people usually give it credit for.
Indeed. Any weaknesses in this film?
I think it's quite long, to be honest. Like it never felt boring, but I think going to the house twice felt weird. And I know it still worked, but I was like, there's something that could have been done here, maybe. Also, I know each one of them has their own separate thing, but some of them I was like, it could be tightened up a little bit here and there. Just if it had been at more like the 2-hour mark rather than the 3-hour mark, whether it's 2 hour 45, then but there's nothing I can really say like, oh, this scene should have been cut. You could have cut out here. It would be like, well, maybe everything could have been trimmed a little bit here and there. But generally speaking, I didn't really see any weakness with it. I really liked all aspects of it. I thought the acting was great. The story was great. The beats were great. As you said, it never felt boring. Shot brilliantly. Sound was great. Like everything. The fact that the adults are just not there. And the fact that it's like a Goonies Spielberg thing, but in a messed up horror way, was great. I think some of the CGI, a lot of the CGI was really fucking good. But like, as you said, the zombie guy, I was like, it could have been a bit more practical. And sometimes like when he's coming out of when it's the slideshow bit, even though that bit was cool, I was like, he does look a bit too cartoony. It still works, but, and I know they did use a lot of practical stuff when they could. There could have been, I don't know. I think that's it really. Like, I don't think there was anything I would think to improve or anything that fell short for me. Fell short.
No, likewise. I agree with some of those like as minor nitpicks, but really overall it delivered on all fronts. One thing I think would have been interesting. There's a bit in the middle where you're kind of getting a bit of that backstory on Pennywise. Yeah. And naturally, I think your mind goes to, because that's how our brains work. Is you kind of want to try and make some logic of it and get some answers.
That's true.
And I think to provide solid answers as to like what he is or who he is would have been a mistake. But I did have that hankering for like, I'd like a little bit more backstory now. Yeah. And maybe I read that there was a scene drafted by Stephen King, a new scene, which kind of looked into a little bit of Pennywise in, I don't know, like 1800 or something in the town.
Yeah, I think they shot it.
Oh, did they? I'd really like to see that.
Yeah, I think it's a deleted scene. I've actually got the film on Blu-ray and I haven't watched any of the deleted scenes. But I know there's a bit like there's certain bits that, such as Bill and his parents basically ignoring him and all this stuff, which sets up that family dynamic a bit more about why his home life isn't great and his parents are like dicks. And yeah, I believe there was like one, maybe it was not filmed, but it was written about him basically stalking a young woman and eating her baby or something like that. But yeah, and there's a few deleted scenes, but when you like look over them, you can tell why they were cut. And they've said that the director said that there's chapter 1 and chapter 2. He might make it into like one film, but do it as a different cut. So he might add some new stuff.
Okay.
And make it its own thing, which I think would be quite interesting. And maybe scenes like that might be brought back because he wants to treat it like fresh almost.
That's cool. I mean, like, why not do that? It's perfect opportunity when you've got like an episodic film like this. You know, the format is there. Why not do it?
Yeah, exactly. So I thought just go over a few little tidbits. So the film grossed over $700 million worldwide on a budget of $35 million. So that is a fair chunk of profit.
Wow,
going on there. Dan, who would you have liked to have seen as Pennywise? Do you think who would have made a good Pennywise in your opinion?
Wow, God, Jim Carrey.
Yeah,
he was so good as the Riddler. I don't know. I like that they kind of used someone who's not too recognisable. I think that would have been a mistake to cast someone famous.
Yeah,
or too famous, like with a mainstream audience.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, the original person that was going to be Pennywise, right until the last minute, really, was Will Porter, the British actor. Don't know if you know who he is.
No,
he was in Midsommar recently. I always think of him as the guy from Son of Rambo.
Midsummer Murders.
Oh, yeah, imagine.
John Nettles.
It's John Nettles. Though, funny enough, Midsommar is about murder. So there are some Midsommar murders. You'll know if you maybe Google him. He's been in other stuff. He was in Detroit. He's all right. But I think he would have made a pretty good clown, to be honest, because he's got a bit of a weird face, a bit like Bill Skarsgård anyway. Hugo Weaving was another option. He was Agent Smith and Elrond or whatever in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's
can't picture him.
Richard Armitage, who I think is the Hobbit in the Hobbit series. Again, he's a British guy.
These sound like terrible. Why would you have the Hobbit? You can't have the Hobbit play a clown.
Well, he's not an actual Hobbit. And weirdly, randomly, apparently Tilda Swinton was in the role. A woman.
That could have been quite good because she... I can see that. I can see that working. She's got the frame and the kind of like movements.
She's got
to make that work.
Big eyes as well, yeah. I think she could have done something weird, but...
She was good in... did you see Suspiria?
Doctor Strange.
Last year.
No, I didn't see Suspiria, actually, the remake. You know what? I've never actually seen the original Suspiria beginning to end without falling asleep. So I've seen it all, but not in one sitting, if that makes sense.
Well, that's awful because that film is all about building that uneasy feeling in you.
I've heard that.
That's like saying, I've listened to Pet Sounds in 2 chunks.
Yeah. Which is probably also true.
Yeah. Right, you need to come round. I'm going to make you listen to Pet Sounds. We're going to watch Suspiria. That's like one of my top all-time favourite films.
Just imagine me sitting there and you just staring at me whilst I'm listening to it. Just making sure I don't sleep.
I'm going to stand here with my hands on my hips. Make sure you blooming well listen to all this album.
Thank God you said hips.
I think she was good in the remake, though, was my point.
Oh, okay.
She was good in the remake. And she played a couple of roles in that kind of to the point where you don't really realise that it's her.
Mm.
So I can imagine her bringing that, because one of those roles is a male man. She plays a male man, man with a cock.
Wow.
So
haven't seen one of those.
She's got
in a
the
while.
chops.
Right. You know, she has 2 husbands. Do you know that? She's in a polyamorous situation. I believe that's what it's called.
Can you imagine? How does that? Well, she's married to them both.
Oh, whatever. Married with them. I don't know. She's life partners of some sort. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, 2 boyfriends. Then let's just say that. I don't know. So, people have said lots of things, but I was reading that I can't remember if it's a passage in the book or if Stephen King just said this or whatever, but they say the first film is kids coming to terms with their mortality, and the second one is adults coming to terms with death. If you think of it it's in the book, it kind of splits between narratives, but if you think of it like that, it kind of makes sense. And how, children think they're immortal when actually they're not.
That makes sense, because that's how the old TV version was structured as well.
Yeah. So why a clown? I guess it's the mix of positive and negative, like as in clowns are supposed to be upbeat and happy, and it's a mask, and it's the appearance of happiness, and appearances are deceiving. So even though obviously clowns are natively creepy in their own way, there's also that kind of lesson to be learned in terms of being a kid, that you can't just trust what's on the outside, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's actually a bit of a trope. So Stephen King wasn't the first person to write a scary clown. They're just creepy for all those reasons that you've just mentioned and more. Yeah.
And I was also wondering, this is just me kind of, spouting bullshit, but is it like, because the town, Derry, in this film, is very kind of bright, colourful, clean. Doesn't seem to be many people there, but it feels, quite warm. And I'm thinking, is it like this kind of, when you look back at your hometown, is it that nostalgic element to it where everything is just like brighter and nicer, and it represents almost like the real world like leaking through, because they all have like difficult childhoods, and the only one who doesn't have his own like scene and dealing with it is the funny guy, is Richie, and maybe he's got a fear of just not being funny, and maybe that's why it's a clown. Maybe it's all in Richie's head. Maybe he's that's his true fear, is that he won't be deemed funny. Like when he goes into the house, he sees a dummy of himself, for instance, in a room full of clowns. So I don't know. I was kind of messing around with that. I didn't really have a clear theory or anything of it, but
there's definitely I like that point. Like the town definitely feels like idealized. And I think that's part of the appeal of using this hazy 80s nostalgia as well. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like some of the Twilight Zone episodes that deal with rose-tinted glasses and going back to these idealized towns.
Yeah.
And then, it never pays off, does it, for the characters involved?
Yeah.
You can't go back. One thing that occurred to me, like for only the most fleeting of split seconds, and then I dismissed it while I was watching it. It was like, because it is weird that like Richie's got this, his fear is the clown. It makes him feel like a more central figure.
Yeah.
And that maybe he's generated the clown somehow.
Yeah.
Like he's maybe really directly linked to, the conjuring or genesis of this creature. Is he in on it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, all this stuff gets thrown out the window in the second chapter because it's never really dealt with, and the town is exactly the same. But yeah, like before I saw it, all these kind of things were floating around my head. I thought that was quite interesting, but then I was like, am I just reading way too much into it? The answer is probably yes.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to go into like a new segment, which I've just ripped off other podcasts. We're just going to go through what other people thought of it online. And this is on IMDb. And I'm just going to give you some reviews of what people have said about it. Chapter 1, Dan, tell me what you think.
Okay.
So this is by BianCalc14. Gave it 1 star. Wow, I honestly can't believe these reviews. I made an IMDb account just to write a review. I love the original and have seen it many times. This movie was horrible. I feel insulted by the directors. He thinks there's more than one. It wasn't scary at all. Any potential scary scene was downplayed by jokes so forcefully inserted into the script. There are multiple major holes in the storyline as well. And he's going to list some off here. So I was thinking, I'll tell you what the holes were and you'd see if you could fill them in. Hole 1.
Okay.
The group of bullies never once said anything about their buddy missing. It's not really a plot hole, is it?
It's not a plot hole. No.
It's just more of an observation.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you assume, don't you, that there might be things going on in the background that we don't have to see every single detail. We don't, for example, we don't see certain characters defecating, but we can assume that over the course of the movie, they all probably, produced a stall.
Yeah,
but,
Bailey, whilst Pennywise was there freaking them out. That's it. That's his first example. Hole 2. I love the fact it says hole 2. Hole 1, hole 2. Which is which? The girl is pulled down from floating and brought back to life. She never died, by the way. Doesn't that mean that the hundreds of kids that come down from floating at the end come back to life too? Or do their rotting corpses fill up the sewers for 27 years? Does Georgie come back to life too? Dan, care to answer that?
I hate this when, I spoke a little bit then a minute ago about them trying to kill the clown and all this, and how it's difficult when you want to get logical answers to things, but I hate when people apply this kind of level of logic. We don't know what's going on. It's a movie where there's an entity that's a killer clown, and you can't apply that kind of pedantic logic. So he should just interpret it how he would like to and draw his own conclusions. It's
a major plot hole. Hole 3, my favourite of the holes. The girl can't decide which boy she loves. By the way, she can. She clearly, I'm going to answer this already. She clearly doesn't like the fat kid that way. It's made more than obvious. Anyway, he goes on. She took the poem from the pudgy kid's room. I have to assume because she randomly ends up with it in her bedroom. But then she thinks that Bill wrote the poem somehow. The pudgy kid kisses her, bringing her back to life. True love brings back the dead girl like Princess and the Frog or something. But she winds up with Bill.
Where's the hole?
That's the plot hole. I don't know. The girl, his plot hole is the girl can't decide which boy she loves. That's not a plot. It's not a plot hole, mate. That's part of the. That's
part of growing up, my friend.
That's the story. Yeah, that's the kind of the point is the fact that there's this weird love triangle, but she's clearly more in love with Bill than she is with fucking Ben. Ben. Also,
she doesn't steal the poem from the room. He writes it on a card and sends it to her.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So this guy's not going down straight. He finishes with every cheesy horror film jump scene was witnessed in this film. The acting was good, but I can't see how this is touted as a horror film. I felt like I was watching a Disney movie by the end of it.
Oh, God.
What Disney films has he seen?
Does this guy want a fucking pat on the back? Well done, mate. You've seen some really scary films, and this was nowhere near the horrors that you're able to absorb.
Exactly. So, they're just doing the jump scares. This one is by Marcel's Gallant 11.
Good name.
It's short and sweet review. Below meh. To summarise my upcoming review, I'll start by saying, and this is in quotes, I really did not like this movie. So he's quoted himself. The movie It is, in simple terms, about the struggles and fear youth face when they being to come of age. I'm pronouncing this how he's written this. In my eyes, this movie's success came solely from good marketing because the movie's true foundation is filled with poor acting, shoddy scripts, and he spelled that SCRIPS, not to get pedantic about spelling, but that's how it is, and really unthoughtful horror. Such a great term. Really unthoughtful horror. Give your horror some thought. Yeah. It's like they put no thought into this horror.
Well, unthought, like it's turned up to a dinner party and forgot to bring a bottle.
Is there such a word as unthoughtful as well?
Not in this context, at least, that's for sure.
That's true.
I don't know what to say about all that.
To me, the movie It is only a 3 out of 10 star movie, making it strong below meh. Like always, the only way to find out the quality of a movie is to go out and see it for yourself. Enjoy if you can. Lol. 1 out of 10. So he's just said to him it's only a 3 out of 10 star movie.
Yeah.
And he's gone on to give it a 1.
Well, did he say? Sorry, I thought you said he said it was a 3-star movie.
That's
not necessarily 3 out of 10. So presumably he's got his own rating system, and he's then converting it for the IMDb star system.
I see what you're saying there. There's a conversion rate on his stars to IMDb stars.
Yeah, because he's given it 3, presumably out of 30.
Yeah.
So, I mean, innovative. Wrong, unfortunately. Just wrong. But, I mean, hats off to him for having his own star system. I don't think anyone else is rating things out of 30.
No. It makes it sound like he's like, God, I'm going to get my own star system. Milky Way, I'm going to call it. This is by Scott Balfe. He said, after watching this last night, they should never have made the remake for this, and no idea who is reviewing this over at 8, as they must be blind. Terrible, 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 terrible film. Thought it was a comedy more than a horror. Did not enjoy it at all. Pennywise was a donut in it. Should have been more killing in it. Absolutely boiling. Pennywise was a donut in it.
Dear.
1 out of 10. So here's some people who gave it more favourable reviews. Take the Boat, Georgie, this one's called, by Rammer Screen 5. The brand new It movie scared the heck out of me, and I don't throw that around loosely, because just when you thought that Annabelle creation may have set the bar for this year, bam, It comes along and smashes that bar into pieces. Wow, this is one incredible horror film. Everybody involved should get a congratulatory pat on the back. Definitely a huge upgrade from the 90s miniseries. This is best Stephen King adaptation yet. The fact that his bar was Annabelle creation, which was fucking dreadful. 10 out of 10.
Completely hollow words. Managed to say nothing in 100 words.
This one's good as well. Don't listen to negative reviews. Furlix, 6873614. Everyone's a critic these days. This is a fun and faithful adaptation of Stephen King's book, It. I can't understand why people are complaining and saying, save your money. Please do not listen to these reviews. Make up your own mind. The Leaper was not CGI, it was practical effects. They used CGI for Pennywise because there is no way some of those effects could be done practically. Pennywise actor Bill Skarsgård could roll his eyes and move them without CGI, as stated in interviews. His eye colour changed from yellow to blue to lure Georgie in, Lewer. I will also add that the story works even with the minor changes. Please, people, don't be a sheep in the herd, HEARD, and follow the negative Nancys in the world. This film is fun and the story is told well. Sure, the scares aren't that scary, but the psychological atmosphere in the story is. It's a 10 out of 10 for me.
Some cogent points, I suppose.
Yeah. And then last one.
Like a needle in a haystack.
Yeah. Last one is by Samuel Wynne. And the title of it is just Nice. Was good. Very good, actually. Probably one of the few people to be unsurprised by that. Very surprised to see the rating on IMDb to head downwards so fast. Shame, really. Hope it goes back up to 8.4 like Friday, but also hoping it doesn't go to 7.9 like Trainspotting 2. Would be a shame.
Oh my God.
He's got very in depth there with the with the average rating. Yeah.
Do you think he keeps a tracker? Because how else? I mean, is he keeping tabs on all the films? Do you think he gets up every morning and like there's, I don't know, maybe like 50 films that he's tracking, and he's got a spreadsheet, and every day he's like, that's the score it's got, and the next day, and then he's like generating a little graph.
Could be. People.
You know, how many likes do we need to get that back up to the 8.4?
Come on, let's hope it doesn't go like Trainspotting 2. Jesus. Come on, guys. Get it together. So that was, he gave that a 10 out of 10, as you could probably imagine. So
good.
So that was it. Chapter 1. Which, it was. Any final thoughts on it?
Only that I'm looking forward to it too.
Hey, got a little secret for you.
Yeah.
Don't get too excited. It doesn't scratch that itch that you might be having. Sorry.
That was the case with the original, the TV series. Not the original, of course, because this is the original in a way, because it's the first actual movie adaptation of the film.
Yeah, certainly. This is the first theatrical release.
The original. So, I mean, you can kind of blame the source material, maybe. I haven't read the novel, but presumably it takes a bit of a nosedive in the second half.
Well, it's not, both timelines happen at the same time in the book. So it's not split like that. But
right, I suppose then just the adult story is less compelling.
Well, for one thing, it's like you've taken the whole edge is that they're kids. How are they supposed to go up against this monster? And then you're like, oh, they're adults. And it's the same thing. And there's a little bit less danger, you feel like, to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That in a nutshell is by itself a problem. But I won't go too much into that because let's save that for a future episode.
Yeah.
So, Dan, where can people find you?
I'm operating under the Dreadful Discs name. If you're interested in some music discussion, you can find me on Instagram and on YouTube talking about some classic albums.
Yeah. What was the last one that you just did?
Oh, I did a little discussion on the Beatles' Abbey Road, seeing as how it's riding high at the top of the UK charts at the moment. It's 50th anniversary. So I pulled out my 1969 copy.
It was the summer of 69 at Dan's house this week. Lovely. Well, for any New Winter fans, you can obviously, as I said, support us on Patreon, patreon.com/newwinter. The episode of Tron is up if you want to have a listen to that. You can follow us at Instagram and Twitter on @newwinter or email us at newwinterpodcast@gmail.com. Did you like it? Did you fancy it? Did you want a bit of it? Do you want more of it? Please send your answers in because I want to know. I want to know how you feel about it. Have you seen it?
What did you think? Did you think it was a steaming pile of it?
Yeah. Exactly. You bastards. No, thanks very much for listening. And we'll see you on the next one, whenever that may be. Goodbye.
Cheerio.
Yeah, I saw him too.
What happens when another Georgie goes missing? Or one of us? Are you just gonna pretend it isn't happening like everyone else in this town? If we stick together, we'll win.